Good evening. Welcome to Mothman-podcast. Tonight we're still in the stories of children who remember their lives before they were born. Tonight's episode is about a 5-year-old little boy who told his mother he was a female in his past life. So, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. And here we go.
Like, something that I had been missing forever was now in my life. Nick was above and beyond excited to have a boy.
Luke is a smart kid. He is very vocal.
Okay, drum roll, please.
I am shocked at things that he says.
The first thing that he would say to me that would make me turn around and question what he was talking about is he would say, before I was a baby, I had black hair. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, you were bald until you were 2, and now you have blonde hair. You never had black hair. One day I was getting dressed and put earrings on, and he reached up and touched my earring and said, oh, I used to have a pair like that when I was a girl. I remember thinking, okay, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You know, he's just used to me getting dressed and ready in the morning and sees me putting earrings on, and he wants to relate. After correcting him so many times and explaining to him that he was born a boy and that he was never a girl, he would still kind of bring things up, just matter-of-factly, like, oh, well, when I was a girl, I did that. And, you know, when a 2-year-old says something like that, you just kind of blow it off. You don't really think anything of it at first. We were sitting outside, and we had found a few ladybugs. And I showed him, you know, Luke, look, this is a ladybug. Isn't it cute? I said, well, what should we name the ladybug? And he said, Pam. And I just remember laughing, because I'm like, Pam, where in the heck did he get that? He doesn't know any Pams. There's no Pams on any of the TV shows that he watches. When Luke was 3, it was Valentine's Day, and we were hanging little Valentine's Day decorations in the window. They were little owls that were red and pink. I asked him what we should name one of the owls, and he said Pam. I kind of had that moment where I was like, I want to know why it's always Pam. Who's Pam? And he looks right at me and he says, I was. Well, I used to be, and then I died. And I went up to heaven, and God pushed me back down. And when I woke up, I was a baby, and you named me Luke. I called my mom, and I said, hey, you're not gonna believe what just happened. Luke just said,
Pam was me once. Really. God threw me back down, and my new mom named me Luke.
This was the most incredible thing that came out of his mouth, as far as I'm concerned. Erica and Nick like to approach things from a scientific end. They really weren't all of that open to the past life experience. It's very hard for them to wrap their mind around things unless we can back it up with scientific fact.
After that, I didn't really want to ask him about it anymore, because he kind of seemed like he didn't want to talk about it, so I wasn't going to talk about it.
Luke was 4, and we were watching TV, and it was something about a bombing, and a picture came up with a building, and it had a hole blown in the side. And Luke said, I don't want to watch this anymore. I don't want to watch it anymore. This is scaring me. And I said, okay, I mean, we don't have to watch it, but it's okay. You know, all the people that are on the show are alive. Like, it's not real. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, but I died. And I don't like to think about it. It makes me sad. I said, do you remember how you died? And he said, yeah, it was a fire. I first decided to do some research once Luke had given me a city, a name, and a means of death. I figured if there was some kind of a fire in Chicago and there were casualties, that there'd have to be some kind of a record. So I searched Pamela, Chicago, and fire, and I actually got a hit. What I found was in March of 1993, there was a fire that was called the Paxton Hotel fire. The fire was massive, and when the fire department first arrived at the fire, they found people hanging outside of the windows and off of the roof of the building. They had to call in a specialist to identify the bodies. The original newspaper articles all stated that at least one woman had jumped to her death. So I took it a little further, and I researched the part of town that the funeral was listed, where the funeral home was, because I figured that was probably maybe where her hometown was. It was a place called Maywood, Illinois. As I read further on about Maywood, I figured out that it was a predominantly African-American part of town. I casually said, "What color was Pam's skin?" And he said, "Black." Like he didn't even have to think about it. And I was like, oh, okay, another thing fits here. And it was really creeping me out that here I had a story that was lining up with everything that Luke had told me. When Nick got home that night, I was very hesitant to tell him. Really upset him, or I don't know how he's gonna take it, but I went ahead and told him. And his first reaction was, "You're crazy."
When she found the details of who Luke may have been, I kind of just blew it off. I didn't really think too much about the details.
I had to keep showing him how many things lined up. I'm like, every single thing that lines up. And compared with the fact that I had never asked him what her race was, that was kind of like the icing on my cake. I found a few pictures that I believe are of Pam, and I think that I'm going to go ahead and show them to Luke to see his reaction either way. I feel like showing Luke pictures of Pam would be able to put the pieces together for me. There always could be more evidence.
Showing pictures to Luke will... Yeah, how do I feel about that? Well, I kind of feel that nothing will happen. That's probably 99.9% likely that he will have no idea who that person is.
I feel like knowing for myself would let me help him with these bad memories that he actually does have. You want to look at these pictures?
Yeah.
Do you know who any of those people are? When we were looking at the pictures, I knew which one was Pam. The rest of the images were not Pam. If you think you know any of those people, or if any of those people look familiar.
What's familiar mean?
Like you know them from somewhere.
You've seen him before.
You know what? I know someone I can recognize. Pam.
He looked right at the correct picture. He said he recognized that one and that he remembered it being taken.
But it was the other time.
It was the other time?
Yeah.
It was pretty powerful that he picked out the picture. Can't really explain it. Don't really know. Kind of bewildered. I don't really know what to think. I guess it does make me, strengthen the possibility that maybe we found the right Pam.
We'll go upstairs and play. I love you, okay?
Upstairs and play?
Yeah, I love you. It's important to me that Luke understands that he doesn't have to worry about fires around every corner or, dangerous things. He does have another chance now as Luke. I feel like I'll be able to help him more with his questions in the future, knowing that I know what happened now, and it's not.
Just want to let you know that Luke, after pointing to the right picture, never spoke to Pam about Pam again. Went on to kindergarten and grew up as a normal child. But there was some very strong evidence that he was Pam at some point in history. So that's just another example of what I say is weird, believable truth, because it's, how do you explain how you could pick out one picture out of a dozen that his mother laid out there on a table in front of him? So, again, thank you for listening to Mothman Podcast. I enjoyed bringing you this episode. I hope you turn in to believing or not believing, whatever your choice may be. So, again, thank you. And if you have any stories that you would love to share with me, please send them to mothman-podcast at mothman-podcast, all one word, .com, or mothman-podcast at gmail.com. I'm out of here. Have a great evening, and I'll see you on the radio next week.